Hello, everybody. We're going to get started. I'm sorry we were a little bit late. We had some technical issues this morning. Today, I am excited to introduce the team to Michelle. She's a friend of mine that I've met in the last year. She used to work at South Lake and she's recently moved to Trillium in Mississauga.
Yep.
And she also recently uh, completed her master's. And remind me again, it's in science?
Yeah, Master of Science in Organizational Leadership. So.
Okay, perfect. And she also won a award for her work in dietary.
Yeah.
So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and have a chance to talk about my favorite topic, food, and to definitely discuss about the importance of eating during your shift at the hospital and even when you're on the weekends running your errands, how important it is to fuel your body to have a successful day. So I'll go through the presentation and then I'm more than happy to take any questions that may come up. So next slide, please. Yeah, so today we're just going to go over a little bit of an introduction about, what we're going to be talking about and what is the needs that you require for eating and your calories and fat and protein, and then how to get started when you want to start eating well at work. And I know sometimes it's hard in the morning when you're running around and trying to get kids off to school or trying to do things before your shift and come into work, you just grab whatever, and then you end up eating maybe not some good choices that are on the unit, or just making your way through Tim Hortons through the day, or any crackers or potato chips that are left on the nursing station. So hopefully this can give you some suggestions and help. And of course, some options I'm going to give you and some final takeaway notes, and then we'll get to questions. So next slide. So I have no conflicts to declare except for the fact that I love food, and also that I've been plant-based since I've been 12 years old. So I don't just talk about plant-based food in this presentation. However, that you'll know that's my bias, that I'll always pick plant-based proteins over animal proteins. But I live with two meat eaters, so I'm very versed in cooking meat, but not knowing what it tastes like. So I can definitely help you out that way. Next slide. So, what is the relationship between nutrition and work and being busy at work? So, here are some beautiful samples that I'm sure our lunches, mine don't normally look this pretty, taking them to work. But the importance of eating well while you're at work is because you'll need to fuel your body not only for the activity that you're doing within your unit or in the hospital running around, but also you're going to be burning calories, burning like muscle, and you need to replenish. Even though you're not working out, typically you are running around a lot, going up and down the stairs, going around the unit, moving patients. So you'll need this fuel to keep you going throughout your day and to not get that highs and lows of blood sugar. Like regardless if you're diabetic or not, our blood sugars all fluctuate. So we want to have a day that's free of headaches. We want to stay hydrated so we don't have exhaustion and headaches and so forth. So all of these are really important. And sometimes it goes off to the side because you're too busy to stop to take your break or to eat. And so hopefully these will give you some suggestions to keep you nice and stable and nourished throughout your whole day. Next slide. Here are just there's many research that's gone on about the relationship between shift workers and their health. So definitely the one that hits home for me is rotating night shifts for coronary artery disease for women. Night shifts is really challenging because you're shifting from day to night and back and forth and your schedule's all off. Also, there's been some research about shift workers and high blood pressure, diabetes, sleep disorder. It looks also positive. I'm not sure why we all don't do shift work. But good news is that we have a chance to really focus if you are rotating from night shifts to day shift. At least now you'll have some suggestions on timing, on when to eat and what to bring when you're on those shifts. So next slide. So what are the issues that can happen with shift working? There's obviously a change in appetite that can happen. especially if you're used to eating during the day and now you're shifting to night. Now you're thinking like, is my dinner my breakfast and my breakfast my dinner? Like you're all confused on what meal is what. Also, trouble falling asleep or getting good night's rest because you just got off 5 days and now you're going on to 5 nights. Weight gain and weight loss are huge issues. People's like rhythm is off. So sometimes too, they put weight on very easily and it's hard to get the weight off. Plus your body's not getting enough rest, which is just one of the key factors to weight loss is sleeping. Isn't that great? I didn't say exercise. I said sleeping can help you lose weight. So that's a good thing. And of course, digestion problems, which I'm sure everyone can probably say that they've had one of these in their life. Constipation, diarrhea, gas, heartburn, all that stuff can come up with stomach issues and not sleeping properly and stress. So these are just some examples. There's many more digestive problems that someone can have when their rhythm is off. I know when I'm tired, sometimes I'm like, I'm too tired, I can't eat. Or I have sometimes, like my husband's notorious for this, he will eat just to try to stay awake. So sometimes if he has a deadline to meet or has to get on a late call, he'll just start eating regardless if he just finished dinner or not, just to try to stay awake. So these are all these problems that can come up. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, we won't do the things that are going to cause some of these problems. So next slide. So what are your needs? I know it's always really complicated when you're online and you type out nutrition and calories or fat intake or how much calories I need to not eat to lose weight. Like there's so many things. So hopefully this can help you do some calculations of your own so that you'll know exactly what you need to survive and just be. Of course, there's going to be issues like any health concerns you have, or if you're in doing like marathons or weightlifting or weight training, then of course those needs change. But this is for just the basic of the everyday like person. So next slide. So here we have an example of the basic needs that need to be on every meal. So having a carbohydrate at each meal, and I know when you go online, there'll be many things that often tell you, oh, go have a low carb diet, don't include carbs, but that's not going to be helpful because this one is one of the major macronutrients that helps provide energy and gives you the ability to like get dressed in the morning, go to your shift, drive, and you're making very critical decisions at work every day. Like, so you need to have your mind sharp. And if you're depriving yourself of a carbohydrate, which is a major macronutrient, you're going to feel lethargic, maybe a little bit confused, don't feel as strong. So avoiding carbohydrates is not always the right choice, but there's different types of carbohydrates that we can choose. Next is protein. That's really important to have, and including fiber and high protein in your meal will keep you full for longer, which is going to be helpful if you have like, you know, your one break and lunch, and then you have no other break till later because you're covering for someone else. You won't get into those hangry stages, which I'm notorious for. Or at 3 o'clock, I always tend to lose it. That's like my breaking point. So if we're having a good low fat option of protein together with a good high fiber starch or carbohydrate, that will keep us full for longer and also will keep our blood sugar stable, which will be helpful. Again, even if you're not diabetic, we have highs and lows in our blood sugar all day. So the more we can keep ourselves stable, the better it's going to be for just our mind and not feeling tired or have a headache or feel like you can't concentrate because you need that coffee and donut at 3 o'clock or such. And of course, having fat in your meal is so important. And I know a lot of people are thinking if I reduce my fat and reduce my calories, then I'll lose weight and that'll be fine. But fat also helps with brain function as well. So it's really important to have some good healthy fats. So don't ignore that on your meal. And of course, I have many suggestions coming up for you. And think of whole foods versus ultra processed. So I know it's hard when we're rushing around and we want a convenience food that's quick and grab it. But along with that's going to come a lot of negative things. You're going to have a lot of extra fat, that's bad fat within that food. And we'll talk about that in the coming slides. And also a lot of extra sodium in those meals. and a lot of unwanted ingredients. But if we could have more foods in its whole form, it would be healthier for you. And hopefully my suggestions will make it easier for you to not do like the drive-throughs or quick things at the hospital. So next slide. So you're wondering how to get started. This picture I love. That is not me in the background in a bathing suit, but I have had this snack many times. It's a chia pudding. It's super easy to make. Even my daughter loves it, and we could do it overnight, and then you can bring it with you to work as a snack. So it's really easy to prepare, and it's totally customizable. And why I like this is a portable like mason jar, and you can put whatever fruit and vegetables you want in there, and it's super easy to prepare, and there's many options out there. Plus it'll help you stay regular, which is always important, as well as keep up your protein levels. And the more you add a variety, the quicker it is. And you see it's a one-stop shop in that little container, so keep that in mind as an option. Next slide. So there's some tricks and tips that can get you started. So here are, as you see, the little examples of little takeaway containers or Tupperwares that you can bring with you to work. And you'll see that in this Tupperware, it has all of the 3 macronutrients in there. It has protein in there, it has starches in there, it has some fats, because I see some avocados, and these are healthy fats. So what you try to do is eat every 3 to 4 hours. And I know that might seem a little overkill or ridiculous, but it's so important. I'm not asking you to eat this size that you see in the photo every 3 hours. This would be like a main meal. Or what I do sometimes is take this and start to eat half and then go about and do a meeting and then come back and like eat the other half. So you could take one meal to work and split it up. The reason why is because, again, keeping your blood sugar stable. And also, if you keep yourself full and with satiety, you're less likely to want to snack on some naughty things that are around the unit, because you're going to feel full and satisfied with that healthy fat that you've added in, whether it's some olive oil or it's some avocado, or some nut butters or some nuts and seeds that you can sprinkle on top of this. Those are examples of some healthy fats that you can use. And if you're going to have a night shift, and I'll get into the timing a little later, you want to consider that your main meal before you go to work. So if you have like a 7:30 to 7:30 shift, for example, and you can eat at 6:30 before you go, then that would be your like main meal. And then you can bring snacks with you throughout the night, so you're not eating so heavy in the middle of the night. And then that's going to disrupt your sleep when you go home to sleep after your shift. And having little snacks throughout your shift will keep your energy up. And then again, just packing lots of little things. So I always look like a squirrel in my lunch bag, because I have a little Ziploc or a little container of nuts and seeds. And then I have another container with berries. And then I have, let's say you have hummus and crackers, or you have berries with cheese. So I'm always trying to combine a carb, which is fruit and dairy product and starches, together with a protein. So those two together will keep me stable for longer and keep me making full. So every time I make my little baggies of containers of snacks, I'm always doing that combination, looking for a carb, looking for a protein at all times. Next slide. So how to space your meals? I get asked that question a lot. And so for afternoon workers, to say you have like a mid shift, you try to have your main meal around noon rather than in the middle of your shift, which might weigh you down. And many people say, I don't want to eat a lot at work because then I get sleepy. So the problem is then you starve yourself, or, have inappropriate snacks, or just live off coffee during your shift. But if you had a good meal with all those 3 macronutrients, the fats, the carbs, and the protein, that's substantial at noon, then you'll have snacks in the afternoon and throughout. So you won't feel that heaviness and that exhaustion that people don't want to have, that carb coma or that weighed down feeling. And as you can see here in the picture, there's a mixture of like tofu and potatoes. There's some hummus there. I see some chickpeas, looks like some feta cheese and spinach. You're getting all the variety in there of the macronutrients. So that will keep you stable as your main meal and not weigh you down. And for night workers, like I said, you say you have your 7:30 shift, like you want to have your meal around 5, no later than 7. So then you're kind of tricking your mind, like, okay, here's my main meal. That's going to keep me full for the next 4 or 5 hours. And then you bring those little snacks in between, so you won't feel that tiredness overnight. And of course, hydration is going to be key no matter where you're working or what your hours are. Because if you don't stay hydrated, then that can also feel like, oh, I have such a headache. I think I need a coffee, or I need to have something sweet. But more often than not, you're probably just thirsty and dehydrated. So having that glass of water or having a water bottle that has those hours listed on it, that a lot of the water bottles do now as a reminder, may be helpful for you as well. Because sometimes you're thirsty and you're not hungry, and your mind, your body doesn't know the difference. And if you work like an overnight late shift, you want to eat the snacks that have the protein instead of the large meal. So for examples, like low fat cheese and crackers. So there's that combination, and picking crackers that are higher fiber. So higher fiber, you're probably thinking, what does that mean? So when you look at the back of the label, I'm looking for things that for crackers, maybe 3 grams. If you're lucky, 3 grams per serving. So let's say they have 10 crackers, 11 crackers, you get 3 grams. That's great. For a piece of bread, on average, you want 5 or more per slice. So these are things that you're kind of looking for. And of course, nuts, you can have a hard-boiled egg and bring it with you. Some peanut butter. I like peanut butter and apples together. So there's lots of different options you can pack. And I like having a variety because I don't know what I'm going to feel like. So bringing enough to work, even though you think your lunch bag's so huge, it's worth it, because then you're less likely to stray and go to the vending machine or go to a fast food place. Next slide. So here's some effective techniques. I've tried them all. I can honestly say that cutting down on caffeine is difficult for me, but what I've tried to do is pick coffee in the morning. I'm never going to tell you not to have your cup of coffee, but I try not to have it too later in the day. Even though I'm starting to feel tired, I then go back to drinking more water. And if the water's getting boring for you, I love to add things to my water. So floating cucumbers and lemons. It's very spa-ish, so that makes me feel relaxing. I like to throw berries in there. You can just jazz up the water so it feels like a new, refreshing drink. And believe it or not, that water does like kick me right out of that headache mode. And I haven't had that caffeine to ruin my sleep late at night. Taking a lot of active breaks. So I am notorious for sitting at my computer and doing a lot of work, and maybe the hours go by and then you just start to become like delirious looking at your monitor. So to get up, walk around, do these active breaks, even if it's to go outside and walk around the hospital and come back, all this will kind of shake it up and wake you up. And skipping sweet snacks is really important, because you have these sweets, you feel good at the moment, and then you feel crappy afterwards. And that's just going to ruin your shift. And then you'll be complaining, and then your coworkers will be mad. So I would just skip the sweet snacks. And as we're starting to get closer to holiday season, I know that there's going to be so many things at the nursing station and in the lunchrooms. So try to limit it to like once or twice a week, you're going to indulge in those sweet things. But if you feel like you're going there, I would leave the lunchroom and then go have my other snacks that you brought from home. And the more that you pack healthy meals and healthy snacks, the less likely you're going to want to go to those sneaky snacks that are all over the place. For some reason, millions of croissants, donuts, bagels, like all this stuff shows up at the nursing station. And of course, you just want to try it. And that's when you ruin everything you've been working so hard for. So really try to think, okay, just on Fridays, I'm going to have treats. And that may be helpful. And of course, eating your main meal before work. So if you work in the morning shift, that might change a bit, because you might not want to eat at like 6 a.m. if you have to be at work for a 7:30 shift. So then when you have your first break, you could do it that. So in the morning, maybe have a smoothie or those chia pudding, and you can eat it while you're in the car or when you get to work before your shift. So at least you had a little bit of something, and then you can have the other half of it at your like 10 a.m. break or whenever your break is in the morning. And it's important to have a light snack before bed, because this way you won't wake up starving and say you're like rushing to get to work, and also keep your blood sugar more stable throughout the evening. But a little snack, I mean, super light. So if you wanted to have an apple with like a cheese string, like that's okay, or like a handful of nuts, all that stuff is fine. But avoiding high fat, fried, or spicy foods is really important because that's going to lead to heartburn, gas, indigestion. And especially if you include those things during your shift, then you're going to feel really weighed down and lethargic. And it's just going to make it that much worse to get through the shift, especially if you have like, in the day of a big assignment and you're trying to run around with all your patients, you're not going to feel so good. Next slide. Okay, so here are some sample meals, some sample ideas. So sandwiches and wraps are really great and easy to take on the run. So I try to make a variety of those throughout the week. So either like egg salad, or if you had like chicken or turkey from the night before, you can make on whole wheat bread, make a wrap. If you had some grilled, I always grill extra veggies, or I always cook a little bit more at dinner time so then I can use it for lunch the next day. I know with my daughter, she's like anti-sandwiches. It's always been that way. So she always needs a hot meal for lunch. So the thermos is out, but I tend to recycle what I used for dinner. And then making wraps is super easy. So what I do when I come home from the grocery store and I have like a whole like lettuce, a whole lettuce head, I have a bunch of like carrots, or I have celery, I chop everything up, pre-wash it, and put them in little containers so it's easy to go. Because there's nothing worse in the morning when you're like, what am I going to eat for lunch? You open the fridge and you have to start cutting up lettuce or start cutting up celery. So if it's already pre-done, you're more likely to bring it in your lunch bag for work and more likely to pack these snacks on the go in the car, even on the weekend, like when you're running errands. Everyone, as soon as you leave the house, all of a sudden everyone becomes hungry. I don't know what happens, but if you have these snacks, and you can just give them like little baggies of stuff. So on the side picture here, there's some avocado and tomatoes. This is super easy to prepare. You can even bring the avocado whole to work and just smash it up in a container when you get there. And I have some tomatoes. They put some corn in there. So that's like you have this whole meal. It looks like it's on a wrap. So you have carbs there, you have fat there. And there's some protein in the avocado, but maybe if you sprinkle cheese on there or some tofu slices, or if you had any like turkey or chicken, that would be a complete meal right there. And all that avocado will keep you full for longer, but it's healthy fat. Like leftover casseroles, stir fries, pastas, these are all things that I use all the time for lunches. So I just make a bit more at dinner, and then I always have extra, which makes it so much easier. And I love to pre-prepare salads at home. So if you have a bunch of canned beans at home, for example, I open them all up, I put them in a bowl, I chop up some like shallots or some green onions, and I put all the beans there. I love using frozen corn or frozen vegetables, which is more economical as we move into the seasons, as they don't become as fresh anymore. And plus, it'll be so expensive. And then I mix it all together and I put them all in little containers without the dressing or anything I use. And then I just save them in my fridge so I can just grab it and I'm going to work. And in terms of like dressing, my favorite dressing all time is just salt, pepper, olive oil, and a lemon. And I just put lemon juice on it. So you can prepare that in a little, I have a like mini Tupperwares, and then I can just pour it over my salad and at work. So sometimes I saute some tofu, sometimes I'm sauteing some chicken for my family, and then they can just add it to that salad and on the go. So you can just make a different varieties. So if the components are there in your fridge, like the little containers of mixed beans, or you have containers of mixed lettuce that's not dressed yet, it's easy for you to mix and match throughout the week. So it becomes new and exciting. So it's not always the same salad over and over again. And then it can look like that beautiful picture down below. Sometimes I roast sweet potatoes and potatoes, cut them up. And so I can grab that as my carbohydrate and I put that over my salad, and that checks off the carbohydrate. Or if I have my beans, that checks off my protein. And if I had olive oil, avocado, or some nuts on top, then I have my fat. So every time I'm looking at a meal, I'm saying, do I have those three components together? So that really the key is to have pre-prepared meals. So my prep time is Sundays, but that can be whenever it suits you. And people are like, isn't that a lot of work? Well, at the beginning, you feel like it's overwhelming, but as soon as you're starting to mix and match things, it's so much easier. when you're in the week in a rush, you just feel good when you look at your fridge and everything's organized, you can just grab and go. So when everyone's hungry, what am I going to eat? Like, you could pull together that beautiful salad that you see at the bottom picture there in literally 5 minutes because everything was already done. And then cereal is always my go-to. Packing some cereal for work, you can put in a thermos some milk, whatever beverage like non-dairy or dairy beverage you prefer, which will have the fat and protein for you. And it's a carbohydrate if you pick dairy, like animal dairy, and then you can have cereal in a little container and just mix it. And that's a great snack to have, especially on a night shift, because it gives you all those components. You can put berries on it if you want or fancy it up, but that's up to you. Next slide. So here are some examples to infuse some quick energy when you want a quick snack at work. So you're thinking, okay, I got my main meal, but what am I going to pack as a snack? So here are some options that are really quick. So steamed edamame, I actually just ate that yesterday for a snack. There are little frozen edamame that you can buy. I've seen everywhere, like Costco, PC, Sobeys, wherever you go grocery shopping. And it's just a quick steaming in the microwave or whatever appliance you use. And look, you get protein, you get great amount of fat, and it's healthy fat and some carbohydrate in there too. So that quick half a cup, you do that on your break and you've checked off everything. Another one of my favorites, apple slice and almond butter, but you can use cashew butter or any nut butter you want. Just 1 apple and 1 tablespoon. So it's not like it's going to be a large portion that you're worried about. Aren't I going to put weight on? This is very small, but you get everything again. You get some good protein, fat, and carbs again to help you carry on with your shift after your break. This is very popular, veggie sticks, which is like not the veggie sticks like the potato chip kind, but like cut up celery, peppers, or carrots, and a pita, and you can make a black bean dip on your own super fast at home, or hummus, or you could buy a pre-done dip, and it's only a 1/4 cup dip, and you just bring that, and again, you have all those components that you need, which is going to be quick and easy for you to have on your break. And this, as you can see, would be so much more nutritious. You get fiber and protein and the healthy fat, and you're not going for like a Timbit or like something quick. This will be just as quick because you already have it prepared at work. Nuts and seeds, that goes without saying. You can eat those in the car. I have them in my purse. It's like I'm a squirrel. Hard-boiled egg with whole grain crackers, super easy to make at home ahead of time. And if you have a microwave at work, you can even make an egg at work. Like, it's really quick. And you have great amount of protein and carbs. Vanilla or plain Greek yogurt is really a topping, even for if you wanted to make your own ranch dressing. If you use plain Greek yogurt, I like to put in some garlic or some cilantro in there, or you can use some parsley. And then that's it. You could dip your veggies in it. So with that, you're going to get some carb and you're going to get a lot of protein with that. And it's going to be low fat. So those are some other options that you can pick. So these things could be your staples that you could always have ready in the house and pack it to go. And these are for the kids too, or like anyone in the house. It doesn't have to just be with you for work. You can also think of this for the weekends when you're running errands and taking them to all their activities, and you're hungry and they're always asking you like, I need a snack, and you're always going through the drive-through, which can get super expensive. You could just have all this ready in your bag and just throw it back at them in the car, which is what I do. So next slide. So some final tips and some takeaways that may be helpful for you. I know I gave you lots of information, and I'm looking forward to any questions or things that could be more helpful for you. So for a healthy diet, you think, what is healthy eating? Like, what does that mean? And sometimes it can be overwhelming. It can be very complicated. So it's first thing first is just eat more fruit and veggies. People say, well, isn't it like a lot of sugar if I have fruit? But you're eating, the fruit has fiber in it. So I'd rather you eat the fruit than drink it. Sometimes those drinks at like smoothies or smoothie stores or like booster juice, like it sounds so exciting, but there's so many extra calories and sugar in there. So eating the fruits better because you'll feel full, you're chewing, there's fiber in there. So that's always your top choice. And don't shy away from whole grains or refined grains because they're all very helpful in terms of providing you energy and also fiber. So you don't have to eat the entire bag of pasta when you make it. You can have small portions. So people are like, well, what's my portion size? So you're looking for your pasta or rice or potato on the plate to be no more than your fist. And you're looking for the protein on your plate to be within the palm of your hand. That's the size of meat or tofu or tempeh or beans or lentils that you're eating. And then what fills both of your hands should be what is fruits and vegetables on your plate. And try to think of the meat as just a garnish, but that's my plant-based world coming out. And of course, the less animal fats and saturated fats that you eat, the better it'll be from a cardiovascular point of view. And eat smaller portions. Sometimes you want to just get a smaller plate. Also, those like divided up toddler plates are always really helpful because they'll help contain the portion in there for you. And before you go for seconds, I would always wait about 20 minutes because it takes 20 minutes for your stomach to tell their brain that, oh, I'm full. Because I know very often I'm so hungry when I get home that I like eat like so fast and go for seconds and I'm just eating and then all of a sudden I'm exploding. I have to switch into track pants. It's like this whole scene. So if you just slow down and every time you take a bite, you put the fork down and do that, it'll be a lot better for you from a weight control perspective, but also avoiding that gas and the heartburn that can come up from eating too quickly and too much at one time. And replacing saturated fats with unsaturated fats. So what that means, you want to have good, healthy fats. So animal products are the saturated fat, like the bad, unhealthy fat that leads to clogging arteries and bad, like cholesterol. And unsaturated fats are more of the healthy fats. So like the mono and polyunsaturated fats. So when you look at a label and they have the word fat there and your how many grams there is a division there. Now they put just saturated and trans. Those are the two bad ones. So the difference of that number minus the top of the fat number is what's healthy is left. Sometimes they don't have space to write the word poly and mono in their numbers. But if you minus the ones that are there, the difference is the good fat. And you always, always want that to be higher than the percentage that's there of the bad fats. So using some good olive oils, would be a good option. Avocado oil is a great option to cook with. So these are some things you can think about when you're in the grocery store. And of course, limit foods that are high in fat, sugar, and salt that will just retain fluid for you. I know it's tough, especially as we're like, there's always that jump from like after Thanksgiving, there's the Halloween scare with all that candy, and then we immediately go into Christmas mode. So then I know the season will be challenging, but allow yourself to have the treats, but not every day. So if you know you're going to a party on the weekend, try to have a lot of good fiber and fruits and vegetables throughout the week, and then you can treat yourself with those treats on the weekend. And of course, limiting alcohol, according to the American Cancer research, like AICR, there's no safe amount for alcohol. Before it was like 2 drinks a day for men and 1 for women. And no, you can't all save that to Saturday and have 7 drinks. But now they've lowered it to there's no safe amount. So, and plus there's a lot of extra empty calories in there that don't offer any nutritional benefit. But then again, some of you on the holidays may be partaking in some alcohol beverages or a cocktail. So just be mindful of how much you're drinking per day. Yeah, and these are just kind of like general guidelines, but there's a lot of good websites to go on. So unlockfood.ca is a great website to go on. Again, it's unlockfood.ca. It has lots of great recipes, lots of great articles and messages for you to read through. Also AICR, which is the American Institute for Cancer Research. It's great, great recipes. So you can subscribe to their newsletter. I don't have any affiliation with them, but I love their newsletters and all those great recipes. So next slide. So tips to get active. You know, being active is super important. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that during this talk, even though it's about food and physical activity, I think are friends. So these are some guidelines that are between for the ages of 18 to 64. So you're looking for about like 180 minutes a week, you know, to be active. And that doesn't have to be like going to the gym and traditionally like I have to do a class or I have to lift weights. Even just going for walks or moving yourself or parking further away at the grocery store. All that counts. And with your devices that you may have, like Apple Watches or tracking devices, it'll be easy for you to see how many steps you do. The goal, of course, is at 10,000. Sometimes I make it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I close all my rings on my Apple Watch, and sometimes I don't, but that's okay. I really tried to focus on number 2, which is like breaking my workouts into little 10-minute activities. I find that's more manageable for me than blocking off a whole hour that I may not have in the day. And then, of course, as we age, we want to make sure our muscles and bones are strong. So doing some sort of weight resistance activities is always really important. I'm never going to be huge and bulky, which I always want to have big muscles, but I'm working on, mobility and stability, because as you know, as we age, how many people we see in the hospital that have a fall and it can be detrimental to their health. So really working on mobility, stability, weight training, all this kind of goes together. So think about that during your day. Sometimes when I'm at the unit or I'm charting or whatever, I just do slow squats as I'm charting before I sit in my chair. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I try to do all these little things as I can, or I have a workout band and then I can use that on my break or on my desk. So I always have it here. I have it right here, actually. Here it is. So it's always with me if I want to do any stretches while I'm on the computer. So next slide. So yeah, just overall, these are like some quick tips to get you started, but really it's about a mindset and about really thinking, this is not a diet. This is a whole lifestyle change. I'm going to put myself first and do the self-care, because often with self-care, we think about like, oh, I'm going to buy a cream or I'm going to go for a massage. But treating yourself with healthy and delicious food, that is self-care. And that ultimately is going to help you care for your patients and your family. So always put yourself first and take care of your nutrition first. That's going to help you throughout your whole day. So yeah, that's my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody have.
Just go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask.
If you stop sharing, Kathy, then I can see everybody's faces. Yeah. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
No questions from my end. Thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and hopefully you got some tips to take back with you and you can share with patients or families.
Thanks for
For
the
sure.
present.
Thanks.
I had one question. I have been trying to eat more plant-based foods, and one of the meat substitutes that I've been looking into is like the ground round or whatever that substitutes for like a ground beef. But my question is that is that technically like processed, and is the process of making that worse than, like having meat in general? From a nutritional and moral and ethical approach, I'm just not sure.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so it's twofold. So I wouldn't say it's the best choice in terms of you want to go plant-based. It's there as a convenience food. And I can tell you honestly, when I started, well, there wasn't veggie ground round when I was 12 in the middle of Scarborough. There was nothing there. But then the more you can use whole foods is better. So I wouldn't say, oh, I'm not going to pick veggie ground round because it's better. I'll eat a steak instead. That's not good either. So instead of going to buy the pre-prepared things, which I know is convenient, you don't need to have buy those expensive, because they can be really expensive, those like fake meat, Impossible Burger products. So I just buy the whole foods, like doing simple things like beans and lentils and tofu in its full, like its real form, which is like edamame, is all you need. Like you don't need to buy expensive things or quick things. And so if I'm making like a meat stew, for example, but I'm making it vegetarian for myself, I always put beans and lentils in there, or I crush up like a extra firm tofu and I crush it up and put it in there. So I'm using as less processed as possible. And that's always the better choice than picking meat in my perspective. But as you know, I'm very biased because I'm always going to tell you to not pick the animal product. But the less you can buy of the processed heather, the better it's going to be. Also for your pocketbook too. So just go in the middle aisles and buy the whole food itself. It's going to be way better for you.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
If we have no further questions, thank you very much, Michelle, for coming and presenting to our team. And I'm sorry we had technical issues today. Our next presenter is Dr. Gary Block. He'll be presenting on November 28th. Topic is treating social risks to health, tools for primary care providers. So hopefully everyone can join us for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye.
Bye.